Learn English through stories. Adopted and modified by Kulwant Singh Sandhu. Contents 1. Clever Kumaree. 1. Clever Kumaree. Bachchan lives with his wife, Sue, and his daughter, Tuna Kumaree, in Hampton, England. Bachchan is Punjabi and his wife English. When she went kindergarten, many kids made fun of daughter's name because tuna is a kind of fish. So parents started calling her Clever Kumaree. You will find out from the story why they call her by this name. Her story. It was summer. The school year had almost come to an end, and everyone was looking forward to the long holidays. In fact, everyone would have been really happy, except for one thing. Before the holidays, they had to do exams. And nobody likes to do exams, unless they are the swatiest of swats. A swati student is who works really hard for their exams. And Clever Kumaree didn't think that exams were at all nice. No matter how good you are at magic, you still have to remember things for yourself. And Clever Kumaree had twice as much to learn as all the other children. She had to do the witch exams as well as the ordinary school exams. A witch is a woman or a girl who has magical power. She did the witch exams in the evenings, and her mom gave her 4.5 stars for her work. But then she had to get ready for the tests at her school. "Mom, it's not fair," she complained. "I have to learn so many magic spells, and I have to learn all the school lessons too." "Well, just think yourself lucky," said Mom. "Other children have to tidy their rooms, but you can just say a magic spell and it's done just like that." So Clever Kumaree sat in her room and tried to read her school books. But to tell you the truth, she also looked out of the window and made up fairy tales about herself. She is good at making up stories about herself, so she is very imaginative. Only in the stories, she is not a witch. She is a beautiful princess who can also do magic tricks. When exam week came, the first test was spelling. If it had been magic spelling, Clever Kumaree would have been all right. But in this test, the teacher read out words like accommodation and psychology and other words that are tricky to spell. Clever Kumaree was really cross. She thought the teacher had chosen the most difficult words just to be mean. That wasn't fair. So she tried a little magic. She couldn't say a spell out loud because everyone would hear. So she just thought the words in her head really hard, and wow, it worked. Her pen wrote the correct spellings all by itself. Next, they had to do maths problems. Clever Kumaree could do the first few because they were easy peasy, but then there was a mean question about a monkey and some bananas. So she thought up another magic spell, and again her pen wrote down the right answer. In history, she had to remember many names of the Hindu gods. And in geography, she had to remember the capital cities of Europe. In fact, all the exams had mean questions in them. And in every case, a little magic spell came in handy. In fact, the magic worked so well for Clever Kumaree that she thought to herself, "Why should I bother learning all these stupid things? I can just say a magic spell and my pen will write the answer." The week after that, the teacher finished marking all the papers. She told the class that they had all done very well, especially Clever Kumaree, who had scored top marks in every exam. She hadn't got a single answer wrong. "Wow, Clever Kumaree," said Julie. "You're a genius." The teacher said, "Congratulations, Clever Kumaree. You certainly did very well, maybe too well. I think that you and I should go and have a little talk with Mrs. Hardy." And Clever Kumaree felt just a bit worried. Mrs. Hardy is the head teacher, and when you go to have a little talk with her, that usually means that you are in trouble. Big trouble. At lunchtime, the teacher took Clever Kumaree to see Mrs. Hardy. She explained that clever Kumery had got top marks in all her exams and hadn't got a single question wrong. "You are a very naughty girl," said Mrs. Hardy. And clever Kumery started to cry. More cry, more cry. And the teacher dried her tears with a handkerchief. Eventually, clever Kumery stopped crying. "Do you know why you are a naughty girl?" asked Mrs. Hardy. Clever Kumery said, "You're just cross with me because I'm a witch and I know how to do magic. That's really mean of you because I can't help being a witch. I was born that way." "Now you're talking nonsense," said Mrs. Hardy. "There are no such things as witches or magic. You are in trouble because you cheated in the exams." "I did not," said clever Kumery. "Just tell us how you did it, and we will let you off this time," said the teacher. Clever Kumery knew that she was in big trouble. She just wanted to run out of the study and all the way back home to her mom. But she couldn't do that, so she thought she had better own up. "Well, I did do a few magic spells," she said, "just little ones." But they didn't believe her. "Oh dear, what are we going to do with this problem child?" said the teacher. "Clever Kumery," said Mrs. Hardy. "You are in big, big trouble. You have till the end of term to tell us how you cheated in the exams. If you don't tell the truth by then, you won't be coming back to school next term. We don't have girls who make up stories about witches and magic in this school. Goodness gracious, you'll be frightening all the other children with these silly stories." And clever Kumery was very, very sad about that, because she was telling the truth about being a witch. And it wasn't fair. It was the last week of term. And before the holidays, the school always had a special treat. This term, clever Kumery's class went on a trip to the safari park. It was a big park full of wild animals from places like Africa. There were giraffes and elephants, long-legged deer called gazelles, and many, many more. Clever Kumery's class were all safe inside the bus, and they looked out of the window at all the animals. It was ever so cool. Everyone was really excited and happy. But clever Kumery, she was sad because she was still in big, big trouble. The best animals were the chimpanzees. They climbed all over the bus. The driver got really cross when they stole his windscreen wipers. Everyone else thought that was ever so funny. And the lions were good too. They were a bit scary though. They had lunch in a restaurant on top of a tall rock. The rock was on a big island surrounded by water. And in the water there were crocodiles. And the crocodiles were really scary. They were even scarier than the lions. There was a boy in clever Kumery's class called Clive. Clive was always doing silly things. But the teachers didn't seem to mind. Clive never got into trouble, no matter how silly he was. But then, he didn't know how to do magic. So that was probably why he always got away with things. In the restaurant, Clive did something very silly indeed. He asked to go to the loo, and on the way back, he went through a door that said, "Staff only." And from there he went down a corridor and found a special room. It was the room which they used to feed the crocodiles. It had a window and the keepers threw meat out of it down into the river. And somebody had left the window open. Clive climbed up to look through the window. Then he saw that if you climbed out of the window, you could get onto the rocks. He thought it would be really cool to walk around the rocks and look in at the other children eating their lunch. They would get a really big surprise to see him out there. So that's what he did. Only he slipped on a banana skin left by a monkey. Then he fell down the rocks and broke his ankle. Fortunately, one of the keepers saw him and signaled the alarm. Everyone in the restaurant rushed to the window to look out, and they saw Clive lying on a rock near the river. A crocodile was swimming slowly towards him. Its face had a sort of smile on it, and its tail was swishing. Everyone screamed except for Clever Kumery and her friend Minky. Minky knew that Clever Kumery was a witch because once she had turned her into a frog for a short time. "Clever Kumery, do something. You're the only one who can save poor Clive. Just say a magic spell, quick," urged Minky. Mrs. Hardy heard this, but she was too frightened to tell off either Minky or Clever Kumery. After all, poor Clive was looking into the jaws of a crocodile. Clever Kumery thought really hard about what would be the best magic spell to do. And then she decided, "I know, I will make Clive fly." Fortunately, she knew the spell to make somebody fly off by heart. She had learned it when she was getting ready for her witch exams. Now she shouted it out at the top of her voice. I can't tell you what she said, because it's a secret. But it worked well, because everyone saw Clive rise up in the air and gently fly back up to the restaurant. Even the crocodile was impressed. Then Clever Kumery said another spell to make everyone forget what they had just seen except for the crocodile and Mrs. Hardy. After that, Clever Kumery wasn't in trouble anymore, because Mrs. Hardy now knew that she was telling the truth when she said she was a witch. And Clever Kumery was glad that she had worked very hard that term to learn all her magic spells. And when she got home and told her family what had happened, her mom gave her another half-star for passing her witch exams. So now Clever Kumery is a 5-star witch. Her name, Tuna Kumery. Kumery means princess. Tuna means a magical spell. But she does not do bad magical spells.